In this video, I'm going to show you how to make your action poses more dynamic with a few simple steps. These steps will make your static poses look more natural and fluid. We'll also learn the mentality on how to think about dynamic poses so that you can also draw them from imagination. Let's get into it. Any pose has arguably the chance to be drawn with more flow and look less stiff. But before jumping into action poses, let's take a look at a standing pose. And you might say it doesn't look that bad, but it can certainly be drawn better if we show a little bit of action. Just by simply pushing the body forward, we create a curve to the body, making it look much more appealing. Every pose can be stretched, bent or pulled to look more visually pleasing. And that without even touching on foreshortening, which adds another level on top, but let's leave that for later. A dynamic pose also shows the energy of the action, so a good smooth flow is what sets a pose above others visually. The energy of the action usually flows from one side of the body to the other. That's why, for example, we swing one arm back when we punch forward. Alright, let's look at a very similar pose for a swordsman this time, which looks alright for a standing pose, but let's make it more active. If we try something similar but in action, we must consider a curve to the body. Here, let's make the body bending and the legs continue the flow of the pose, and the rest of the body will create a straight shape to counteract the curve of the other side. Now, let's make it again but much more dynamic. Let's bend the body even more and make the head be inside the action line of this flow. Or is it in the flow of this action? And we drew this pose in a slightly perspective shift, meaning we draw the same kind of body pose, but in a specific angle to emphasize the action. Apart from that and the other legs pose, nothing really changed, but it looks much more dynamic. And if we trace a line through the body and a primitive shape for the overall pose, we also get a triangle just like in the previous one. Opposite of this kind of closed pose, let's see an open position where the character is running while holding two swords with his arm straightened. Here, let's create a flow coming from his right hand, going to the leg, and this flow will also split into the other arm, coming to the camera. The sword will help sell the pose even more, creating a line of action going from the hand on the back to the tip of the sword on the front. And just to make a better counter pose of the arm on the back, let's make the sword match that line, creating a straight line of action for the front arm. I'm not gonna lie, this pose makes me a little bit confused if we think in the general way of dynamic poses, since it splits in two, or rather the line of action splits in two. But the general shape of the pose still creates a triangle, so something is right. Alright, let's look at some martial art poses. Let's create a simple standing in one foot pose, something like if a character just kicked someone, or about to. Dynamic poses do not need to be always in a movement, but a good flow of action needs to be seen. Here on this one, an S-curve will follow the body from the head to the foot that is grounded. Notice that on the other leg, we have to draw it beyond the line so it's not interrupted. His right arm can be argued to also make an action line following the pose curve. For the next pose, although it will not look pleasingly dynamic, it's a good example of how to create a 2-foot grounded pose correctly. His right leg is sitting closer to the center of the body since there's more weight being held by it, while the other leg maybe holds like 10% of the body weight. That's why it can be far stretched from the center while still looking believable. Alright, let's look at the kicking pose, you know, those classic Bruce Lee flying kick ones. The foot usually grabs energy from the torso and it makes the kick stronger and faster. But, as you might have guessed, this pose does not work like this. There's a break in the movement. The leg and the body do not create a pleasing flow. I guess that's the trick. But even the arms do not help the leg in any way with a counterbalance movement. So let's look at a better version of it. Let's make the body and the leg follow the same straight line. This straight pose conveys the action and movement going from the body to the leg at high speed. I'll bend the other leg more drastically to show that it is also giving energy to the kicking leg. His left arm follows the direction of the foot. Since this pose is already at high speed, there is no need for the counterbalance of the arms. And that's why his right arm can also be close to the chest, just like his right foot. Because the energy of the body is already set to the left foot and the left arm. So yes, even if the action line of the pose looks straight, it still conveys a lot of dynamism and action. Plus, the subtle addition of perspective foreshortening, it adds to the effect of the action. Speaking of foreshortening, a dynamic pose does not need to be just full figure poses. so a simple punching pose can look very dynamic if you make it right. Just make sure the foreshortening looks correct. The elements appear bigger when they are closer to the camera. And of course, the action here is the punch, but an action line on the body will help sell the pose much more. Just to make sure the pose looks more believable, let's make the head sit inside the action line of the body. There, much better. Alright, I think we covered a lot of good information on this video, but there's still one pose I want to improve here. And the canvas is not yet complete, is it? Let's take that before kick pose we drew earlier and make it more interesting. I'll draw the action line in the beginning for this one and build the body following it. One thing I quickly noticed is that the action line is a little less dynamic than the previous pose. So after placing the feet correctly, it's time to fix the upper part of the body. I went a little overboard with the correction idea here, bending the torso a little bit too much, so let's take it down a notch. For his right arm, think about countering the movement of the foot on the same side. I know, I said the opposite on the previous flying kick pose, and that's because it was already in action. And this one, we go from a standing to an action position, so there is need for a counterbalancing. Just like we walk, when one foot is in front, the arm on the same side is going back. Alright, for the other arm, after experimenting many different poses, let's make it follow the direction flow of his right arm. But since that side's foot is stretched, let's make the arm closed. Again, we do this to counter the movement on the same side limb. And after adding some finishing touches, like line weight and some action lines, that'll be it. Alright, to recap how to draw dynamic poses. Think of a flow of energy going through the body, and usually it will be shown by a C or an S curve, with some exceptions, like the kicking one we saw. And that is it for the video. Thank you for watching, and if you got value out of it, make sure to give it a like and subscribe if you haven't already. So go practice some dynamic poses, and I'll catch you in the next session.